Hello and welcome to another episode of Tech Talks. Today we have with us Neil Pandya, who's the National Head of Media at L'Oreal, a proven marketing leader who has managed multiple projects and leads a team developing the marketing strategy and media buys for L'Oreal. He's a speaker at various forums and the winner of India's top 40 under 40 disruptive minds in India. Welcome, Neil. Great to have you at Tech Talks by AdTech.
Thank you, Shiny. Firstly, apologies that we have been delaying this version for long. And thank you so much for all the kind words you spoke about it. I think it's more than enough. I like the way you put it across.
Thank you. So first order of business, I think I need to congratulate you for being elected the head of Indian Society of Advertisers Media Forum. We definitely need more like-minded people like you, especially new age marketers, to lead such industry bodies. I think it's very important. So congratulations on that.
Thank you again, I would say, and I would really thank Sunil Kataria and ISA team for giving me this an opportunity. And I mean, ISA is the only forum who's a 60-year-old advertiser's voice in the country. And me getting a chance to do my 2 cents of contribution to the entire media and advertising fraternity and ecosystem is a powerful job. And at the end of the day, a lot of expectations as well. So I will try and do the best. And I'm thankful to all of them for considering me as well.
Awesome. So Neil, let me start with the most obvious question that I'm asking all marketers now. Is that 2020, and I'm not going to use the word unprecedented, I'm going to say difficult. But what were the surprises for you in terms of consumer? I mean, we all know that, people stopped spending, brand budgets went down, all that happened. Were there any surprises for you in terms of consumer behavior? And what do you take forward into 2021?
2020, Shiny, all of us have spoken enough about 2020. And definitely it has been a tough time for business, for individuals like us, mental well-beings and the trauma all of us have gone through. So definitely, I feel that 2020 personally has taught us a lot. It has pushed us into situations which none of us imagined. Personally, we never took care about our health, and it has become really important to us now. And professionally, we never imagined that we'll be pushed in a situation where for a year or for almost 2 quarters, people are not moving out and purchasing the products. So I think we were put into a situation which we never imagined, and it has made us more future friendly. So definitely, I see a lot of not surprises, I would say more predictable consumer behavior when they are put into one forced atmosphere or a platform. And there are a list of surprises. But if you ask me what struck me really and which I will take it forward, there are 3 to 4 versions of it. Starting with it, adoption of payments. Shiny, you, me have seen that payment wallets are rising for years. But adoption of this payment online among elderly audience was thanks to 2020 pandemic. I never imagined that my parents who would have a bank app on their phone and they are ready to do a OTP transaction. So this has ensured that the base of online payment has gone really high. And when this base has become high, comes to my next obvious not a surprise, but a biggest consumer change is growth in e-commerce and adoption of e-commerce. And when I say adoption of e-commerce, we knew again that e-commerce was on a rise. It was growing at a 10-15%. But because of 2020, I think the trust among customers to purchase even grocery online, which we never thought that I will go and buy normal food articles from e-commerce, has done 2 ways of benefit to brands. 1, the trust is built. 2, second, the base of e-commerce have multiplied tremendously. So that's the second surprise which I see. I take it in the coming years. The third one is interesting. It's about DIY, do it yourself. I know that I am in the industry for 10 to 12 years and I'm investing millions of dollars to ensure that my customers do things at home, and I do education and all of that thing. Thanks to 2020 pandemic, where we were forced in a situation where we're not going out of the house, we started doing a lot of things by ourselves. be it cooking, be it doing hair coloring at home, or multiple other ways. So I think it has again given a huge base for us to look forward in 21, where I can go to a customer with more offerings as well. So that's third one. And the last one, I think, is not an obvious one. It's all of us going virtual, which you and me are also, which we used to talk in an event scenario. Now we are into webinars. So going virtual and accepting being in virtual part is a benefit I see going forward. Imagine, I mean, the amount of efficiency and amount of time which we are saving in traveling and other stuff. I don't think it is a 24/7, many years virtual world life we are there. But when we go back to reality, this virtual, accustomed to the virtual world, will definitely help us to bring in efficiency at multiple ways. So I think these are the 3 to 4 versions I feel are important to me, and I will take it forward in 21 in all my business objectives and advertising means and other ways.
Fantastic. So digital wallets, e-commerce, do it yourself, and more acceptance of virtual worlds.
Exactly.
I like all of them. So, and coming to the same thing, the things that we adopted is what our consumers adopted as well. So one of the precepts of marketing says, go where your consumer goes, basics. And but consumer has also been unpredictable in 2020. So how has your media strategy kind of evolved in this changing scenario?
I wouldn't say consumers were unpredictable to that extent. I would say consumers were limited with choices. And when you are limited with choices, your predictions would have been far more powerful. So imagine a customer was not allowed to move out of his house. He was left with a lot of time in the house, and he started watching television. So the television viewership increased. But you and me both know that 80% of the country is a single TV household. So the content consumption of everyone in the house was not satisfied with the television. So people started moving to second screen very, very much. So digital consumption, digital viewership started increasing. And within digital also, if you see, OTT went up because of content, gaming went up because they need to spend their time into something which entertains them. Social went up. So on and on, if consumers were put into a situation in a lockdown, they started moving into a more predictive way of watching more television, ensuring more time on digital. So that's the prediction which we saw. How this has impacted most of the advertisers in their media strategy, one of the biggest challenge which we faced, and it's not a rocket science, is that we had limited budgets. I mean, business was affected. So the first thing which was cut was your advertising expenditure. And when that was the scenario, ROI, which was always an important part, but ROI took the front seat for every spend which we have been doing. So largely when we were limited with budgets, how to choose between that budgets in a normal scenario to a more of a COVID and going forward scenario was the kind of a situation which we all faced. I always believe that, none of the brands or advertisers are doing a single platform advertising. It's all about multimedia and where it is. So our media strategies also went into a direction what your brand is and where, in what category it falls into. So if my brand is limited only to online sales, and it is not into GTs, it is not into MDs, and my consumers is very tech friendly, I can talk to them on digital, I can in fact convert my entire last consumer journey through a purchase on e-commerce, I went into a digital first strategy. But there are brands in which we operate which, for example, Garnier Color Shampoo or a Garnier Color Sachet, which the maximum business used to come from GTs, general trades and other stuff. So for those brands, we opted a TV plus digital kind of a strategy because budgets were limited and digital was efficient compared to television. Although television was efficient because people were not advertising and the rates were cheaper, but it was only for a couple of months in the start, but it went back to the normal sense. So combination of that, I think that's went into a change into our media strategy. I wouldn't say that, we went 100% into low funnel or a performance because that's a short-term objective, Shiny. I mean, if I'm looking at a long-term objective of brand salience, brand awareness, I think we did a great job of choosing brands for TV plus digital and brands only for digital. I think that's how we changed our media strategy.
That's fantastic. And it's good to hear that, you are not focused on only on lower funnel metrics. But like you said, is a lot of e-commerce accelerated for you? So is D2C also something that is a priority? Is this something you're working on?
D2C definitely, Shiny, in an industry in which we are operating is definitely important, but it depends upon at what stage you want to enter into D2C for a particular brand. So if you know L'Oreal is also into consumer products like Garnier, Maybelline, L'Oreal Paris. It's also into luxury and professional products like Kérastase and other stuff, L'Oreal Professional and others. So we took the step one into social commerce for our professional divisions, where we connected our salon to the customers, and customers can directly make their orders online, and there was delivery of those orders through the salons to their doorsteps in a very safe and a very 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 smooth way of connection. So that's step one, which we definitely have started taking up into professional and luxury division. If you ask me, are we moving in the consumer division as well? Yes, we would want to, but it will have its own cycle of stage where we are into. But that's the future all about.
Awesome. So, Neil, in one of our earlier discussions, sometime, I think probably a couple of years ago, you mentioned that L'Oreal is now, it's no longer a cosmetics company, it's a MarTech company. And perfectly logical with the way you guys are working. There's so much content and technology that allows you to, kind of interact with your consumer one of the pillars of D2C. What are the advantages of having such a business model?
I definitely recollect the discussion which we had, and I had mentioned beauty tech, not MarTech. But definitely, before I jump to beauty tech, let me just develop on how all the organizations are calling themselves MarTech now, because technology has taken a step one for most of the advertisers. Before I jump into beauty tech, I would like to say a context about how beauty and digital work hand in hand. Beauty is all about visual. Beauty is all about socially shareable content. Digital, on the other hand, is majority of it is smartphones who have an amazing visual on front side and a camera on the back side which clicks pictures and which is socially shareable. So both of them work really hand in hand. And when I say we want to become a beauty tech industry, the future of beauty is beauty tech, and we want to be pioneer in that particular space. And when I say beauty and tech, I think tech has played a brilliant role, not only for us, for most of the advertisers. And in our space, tech has played important role under three pillars, I would say. Pillar number one is largely about tech's importance into experience marketing. So if in a normal scenario, Shiny would have gone to a shop, purchased a product after trial, and then in a COVID scenario, in a futuristic scenario, there is an experience through tech which we give it to our customers in the form of virtual try-ons. We call it VTO. So that's how tech enabled one section. There is another section of tech which helped us creating content online. That's called DCO, Dynamic Creative Optimizers. I imagine, Shiny, when there was lockdown, people not moving out, it was so difficult to create and shoot content on ground. In those situations, we were dependent upon DCOs to create multiple new content assets which we can use it on digital. And consumer today is very smart, Shiny. I mean, they want to look at content in the form of digital assets, what they are interested in. And through DCO, with the click of a button, you can create multiple content at the basis of your consumer's requirements. So that's step number two. And the last angle of tech, which plays a really important role, is all about data. I mean, end of the day, how I can leverage the data in the form of DMPs, CDP, or XYZ. We call it data factory at L'Oreal, where we collect all the data and how we use that data efficiently to create content which is liked by consumers. So in short, Shiny, beauty industry is all about tech, and the future of beauty is beauty tech, and we want to pioneer in the same.
Fantastic. Two of my favorite domains, beauty and tech, coming together. So one of the most important ways that L'Oreal kind of connects with consumers is through video, and it enables your brand ambassadors speaking to us through video, influencers connecting directly, and consumers also giving feedback, which I'm sure comes back to you again as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the newer technologies and platforms that you've explored in this space?
I'll divide your question, Shiny, into three parts. I mean, you mentioned video, you mentioned effectiveness, you mentioned tech. So definitely, to your first point about video as a strategy, for most of the beauty brands, it's really important. Video becomes a core part of the media mix because it helps us communicate our message in a very nicer way to the customer so that he can understand what are we trying to talk to them. So video is really important. Video on television or video on digital is, you will decide on that. Second part, what you mentioned is effectiveness. I mean, you touched, this is something which is debatable across all brands. How effective is video, or how effective a media is all about? In the absence of any unified measurement, I mean, currently we use, there are multiple studies like MMMs and cross media who tell us that, television video usage is effective. Digital video usage is efficient plus effective. And within digital also, there is video on social platform, video on content platform, video on OTT. So how every one of them is efficient and effective. So that's the bigger debate which is going on. And in middle of that, brands like us, in order to be ensuring effectiveness, are definitely shifting monies from television to digital. But when I say television is a hardcore video platform, I'm also moving that money to digital into a video platform as well, because servicing my customers through video has a double impact. One is all about brand saliency awareness, and at the same time, it is leading to more of a performance-driven campaign as well. So that's the second part of your question about effectiveness. Is that we using new tech worlds in order to get into the current times? I will again restrict my answer to video only, Shiny, because if I go outside video, it will be a 1 hour session altogether. So within video, Shiny, you would be, I mean, it's again most abused word in our industry, programmatic. But if in a layman language, programmatic is more of a probabilistic ways of targeting your customer. So on digital also, I would target a set of audience who are more who likes my product, who are more engaging with my products, and I choose those audience and I target them. So that's the current way of being usage of video, of tech on digital by most of the advertisers. I think what some of them are moving now are from probabilistic way of advertising to more of a deterministic way advertising approach. When I say this different probabilistic way, I saw that there's a subset who like us and I would want to show my ads to them. There's a subset among that entire universe who are more determined to make the purchase. To give you more better example, it's Google search and Amazon search. If you are searching something on Google search, you are doing a research. You are closer to the purchase, but you don't know, you might not purchase. You are still doing the research. But if you're doing a search on Amazon or an e-commerce platform, you are more closer to making a purchase. So that is deterministic level of planning. So things like, targeting video ads to our customers through DSPs of e-commerce platform is what the next tech advantage which most of the advertisers would use. I think we are in that space currently, Shiny.
Awesome. And, coming back to your previous point about, when we spoke about beauty tech, and to quiz you a little further about that is how effective. So you've been able to replicate technology via VR or AR, and, I can try on all the products just the way I would try it on in a mall or a store. How much success have you seen with this? Is this 100% effective, 80%, or what do you make of this?
And there are multiple legs to this, Shiny. I mean, as you rightly said, Shiny in a normal time would go to a L'Oreal counter in Shoppers Stop before making a purchase. She will do a lot of swatches in her hand. She will feel that how she's going to make which shades fits her the best and how she's going to make use of that. In a current scenario where safety has become really important, you definitely can't use same product for multiple customers. There is a beauty advisor on ground who is helping Shiny not only to sell the product, but to educate her on how to do a particular makeup and XYZ. So that was in a normal world. How tech has helped us, One, when customers are not moving out, I am giving choice to the customer that's sitting at home. You do not need to do only brand swatches, but you can look how that particular product looks on you before making a purchase. So if Shiny wants to do a brown hair color, she can use virtual try-ons and look herself how she will look before going to a salon or do it herself at home about that particular shade. So that's how virtual try-on are getting more closer to the customers. Secondly, these virtual try-ons and tech are not only selling or giving you experience, they are also becoming e-beauty advisors. So if Shiny is confused and Shiny goes online and she said that, I'm confused, this is my skin shade, these are my liking, I don't like dark shade, I don't like XYZ, this is my skin tone, and it's a very oily skin and other stuff. This virtual try-ons will understand this, and basis the AI, they will guide you that what product suits best to you. So it is one step closer to Shiny to make a choice, and then Shiny can try that product, and then Shiny can go ahead and purchase it. That's step number 2. And step number 3 largely is about digital bots. So I still have queries. I want to talk to someone at L'Oreal who will guide me certain problems and XYZ. That's where tech comes again into the picture, where they are guiding you with all the questions you have. So a combination of all of that thing, Shiny has definitely led more engagement among my customers to on the online world. It has also helped a lot of e-commerce platform to upsell a lot of products, which through this text which is available. And I think the confidence and the trust and trying new things has grown among customers. So when you say hair coloring, 80% was black and brown. So with this virtual try-ons, people are moving beyond those to different shades and other stuff. So definitely this has helped us, and it will continue helping us in future as well.
Fantastic. I completely buy your point on people being more willing to try out, a blue hair color virtually before jumping into it. But yeah, it's opening people up to more possibilities.
Exactly.
Even in terms of luxury brands, if someone was hesitant to go into a store and pick up a luxury brand and try it on, online makes it all possible, and just brings it closer to the consumer. You never know who picks up what.
Definitely.
So similarly, so Neil, one thing that you do for L'Oreal is you're managing both online and offline media, and that's a huge portfolio that you have. And how has been, you guys are digital first. Even if you have a lot of traditional spends, I understand you're digital first. How has that affected your, traditional buys in terms of revenue, in terms of agility? Has it helped you be more effective in traditional because of what you do on digital?
Shani, like me, there are hundreds of others who do the same job of offline and online. And the most difficult question which all of them have currently is to choose which medium to pick it up. And this is a difficult question because Shani, there is nothing called like a unified measurement or a unified targeting available for TV and digital. And within digital also, it is not available between a social to a e-com to a video platform. So that's the biggest gap which all of us face. In the absence of unified measurement and unified targeting, there are multiple modeling exercises which help us answer to some of these questions which you said, which are MMMs, which are cross medias, we have our own internal studies also which we do it. All of these questions definitely help us answer where and how your brand spends you should do. I'll give you an example. One of the recent study which we came across, while I was, it's about MMM, and while X percentage, so for example, 10% of my brand sales was coming because of television advertising, and some 8% was coming because of digital advertising. But the interesting part about this was that 10% of television spends was coming because there was digital presence. So I can attribute the 2% of that overall 10% was because I was also present on digital, and vice versa. When I was in 8% of my digital, it was coming as 8% contribution because I was always also present on television. So 3% of that digital because of television. So there's a halo effect between mediums of television and digital as well. So definitely this helps us answer as a step one. And what was your next question, Shiny? Sorry, I forgot. Is there anything else on that? You're on mute.
Sorry. So I was asking, have these two kind of helped each other in terms of revenue, in terms of digital, and you just answered that. In terms of agility, have these helped each other in terms of agility? Does this help you move your budgets around quickly? Are there any insights that digital brings that you apply to television, or insights television brings that you apply to digital?
Agree. So one of the point I already answered that, there is an halo effect. So it helps each other rather chasing one. Another thing to look at this, Shiny, is also that what is your brand all about? I'm not digital first on all our brands. I have brands which are more massier. I have brands which are more niche. So I am digital first on those niche platforms, but I'm also television first on a lot of other mass brands as well. And if you and there are enough reasons, Shiny, to say that a multimedia approach works far better than a single brand strategy, because it does a dual job of being more efficient, being more effective, and also ensuring there is some attribution to your consumer while he's making a purchase. Although again, attribution is definitely not present like unified measurement and unified targeting, but it is more directional to help us. I think this suffices us from shifting our budgets depending upon the brand's objective. If my brand objective is not to go sprinkle and pray, then I go digital first and do a sharper targeting. If my brand objective is that I go and reach maximum number of audience because my doors are more than 6 lakhs or 8 lakhs stores in which I'm operating, I will go television plus digital first. And lastly, digital is growing as high as television. If you know that the universe of digital currently is 550, 560 million users monthly, which is almost 70-80% reaching to the television universe as well. So there is no way where you can say that digital won't help. Digital will also help to brands which are massier as well. It will depend upon what choices you pick up within digital. Are you taking a more sharper choice of e-commerce driven, or you're taking off a more brand awareness, salience choice of video followed by display and other stuff? I think this fairly answers your question, hopefully.
Absolutely. So many choices. Gone are the good old days where you just slapped your ad on few channels. No. On those Ekta Kapoor serials and you were done with it.
Definitely not.
So with so much, intensity and, work on digital, one of the important things that comes to mind for me is data. And, there is so much of privacy laws, and then you have cookieless browsers, and you have the iOS deprecation, so many things coming. How are you guys planning to work around this? Is first party data your primary go-to? What is it?
Firstly, China data privacy is one of the most important topic for L'Oreal, not only in India, for globally. And as you would be aware that similar to GDPR laws, there are Indian laws into data privacy, which will sooner or later will be coming. And we are anticipated to come anytime within 2 to 3 months as well. So for L'Oreal, data privacy has been most important. We not only respect the privacy, we also invest behind doing the right things into data privacy. So that's one set about importance of data privacy. Coming to your question about cookieless world, I mean, are we worried or are we prepared? Definitely, we are not worried, because when you define cookie, it's first party, third party. I mean, first party is the most important cookie to you because you have interacted with them. Those are your audience who have loved your brand or engaged with your brand. Third party is like a shooting in dark largely. I mean, where you know that this audience has come from someone else as a third party, and you will choose that audience to work for your product. Google themselves are going away from third party version. Hence, the importance of first party has gone really skyrocketing roof for most of the advertisers. And how are we at L'Oreal or similar brands are using it is how efficiently you create the usage of first party data. There are DMPs, Shiny, there are CDPs who help us not only collate all your first party data, but also help you in order to use that first party data in order to create content for brand awareness, in order to create performance-driven data at the back of those data given. So we are heavily invested into data DMPs and CDPs. So, I don't see a cookieless world or a first party world will be a immediate problem, because I think most of us are moving in that direction. We are prepared and we are ready to be going facing it whenever it comes.
Awesome. That's great to hear, Neil. So another thing from data, like you mentioned earlier, that ROI became a very, very important metric for you. So return on ad spend, most marketers are saying, became super important, because there was only limited budget that your CFO was allocating, and you definitely had to make the most of it. So what metrics will be priority for you in 2021? So gone is 2022. What is going to be priority in 2021?
Yeah, ROI, or you call it ROAS, will definitely continue to be a priority. It depends upon what is the weightage of ROI you are giving in. I mean, if I was in 2020, the weightage on ROI was far higher compared to the weightage of everything else. That doesn't mean that I have the liberty to spend money where there is no ROI. It's that there is a lot of efforts made in order to understand the attribution of spends which you're doing on all the mediums. Take for an example again, in 2021, when I go back to normal life, every medium or a platform has its own objective. So television currently might not be having a direct correlation to my ROI, but whenever my ad is on television, there is a spike on Google search, there is a spike on e-commerce search. So there is somewhere correlation between those two spends. So ROI firstly will continue to be our priority. As we are moving towards e-commerce and online, I think there are more soft key priorities which we keep into consideration. I think things like reviews on e-commerce. It's very, very important for you and me. Before making a purchase, I will at least see 5 reviews before I invest into that product. So how we are giving importance to those quality metrics is also one of the priorities. And at the same time, stock availability on e-commerce. I mean, you have made ample efforts to ensure that your consumer reaches on the e-commerce platform to make a purchase of your product. But if your stock is not available, that entire effort will result into a loss. So I think these are some of the soft KPIs which we will continue to look at it, apart from the major KPI of ROI. I think that's all about it.
You spoke about looking at reviews on social media. How big is your social commerce channel? Are you doing something new there?
How big is a social commerce channel? I mean, if I frame it correctly, Shiny, I mean, reviews are utmost important to us. Our reply rate to comments and reviews are as high as 100%, because that reviews not only help us learn and improve in future, but also help us having a more satisfied customer. So from that perspective, there is a separate team who works and takes reviews and considerations as their utmost priority for that. So these are the numbers. I cannot give away further numbers on those aspects, but this is how it is.
Absolutely. No, just wanted to understand how important that is for you, how big means how important that will be for you in your entire marketing strategy. So we've heard of priorities for you. What has been the biggest challenge that you faced or you continue to face while you are buying and executing on media? What technologies do you really, really wish was available that, would make life so easier? What should people actually spend time developing for marketers like you?
Shiny, I will sound like a parrot because I've repeated this in all the forums. Whoever has asked me this question is a unified measurement system. I mean, end of the day, I am spending on television, I am spending on digital. I have no idea what is the duplication between the two audience. Shiny would have seen my ad on TV. Shiny, I would have targeted her 5 times on TV. I would have targeted her 10 times on digital. And within digital, I would have targeted her 5 times on YouTube, 10 times on e-commerce and all of that thing. So end of the day, Shiny is firstly irritated that why is a particular brand chasing me so much. So in order to control the effectiveness of my advertising, it is very important that we bring in a solution which is unified measurement first, and then going into a unified targeting as well. We say programmatic on digital is going in that direction, but programmatic is again not 100% solution of unified targeting, because there is also a kitty of inventory which people are not ready to put it onto programmatic. So I cannot buy social, I cannot buy video, and I cannot buy e-commerce together through programmatics on one platform. But I can buy programmatics on social, I can buy programmatics on video, I can buy programmatics on e-commerce. So we need a solution which is a mediator, which helps not only the consumers from getting the right brands, targeting them, but also bringing in a lot of efficiencies for advertisers to ensure the key priority number one of mine, which is ROI, comes out really well. I think that's the biggest gap. And I think most of us in this industry, including ISA, are working into that direction as well.
Fantastic. I think attribution is the single biggest opportunity that I see across industries, to all developers out there, to all product managers and product experts. That's where the monies are. That's where we need to spend time and efforts on. Thank you so much, Neil. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you for all these insights that you shared with us today.
Thank you, Shiny, for having me over. And it's always a pleasure to have a fireside chat with you.